I'd like to welcome you to another Kali Tutors tutorial session. In this tutorial session, we'll be focusing on SUS1501, Sustainability and Greed. The main objective of this lesson is to show you how to do your portfolio. If you're new to our YouTube channel, please subscribe to get access to the latest public videos the moment that we upload them. If you'd like to access private content, please click on the join button. So now that we are done with all the assignments and we are ready to proceed to do the portfolio, the first step that we need to take is to download the template. Make sure that you download the template from MyUnisa and try to avoid downloading it anywhere else, because you might be downloading an old template and that will guarantee that you fail the module. If you submit a wrong template, they will give you 0. They are not even going to negotiate with you on that one. Okay, make sure that you go to MyUnisa under assignment number 8. You download the template before you proceed. Okay, so once you have the template, it is important that you read the instructions and you understand everything before you start. Okay, so I'm going to take you through the instructions and try to explain what is expected from you. Okay, so the first part of this template, do you want your details? You'll provide your student number or the deadline, and then the name of your teaching assistant. I hope everyone knows their teaching assistant by now. There are two methods in which you can get that information. Go to introduce yourself. If there is no information there, check the name of the person who publishes announcements in your group. Okay, if there are no announcements and there is no name in the introduce yourself part, make sure that you leave this one blank. Okay, you will not be penalized for that. Okay, so once you have that information, here is a declaration. They say, by submitting this portfolio, I implicitly declare that this is my own work except for the introduction, which was kindly written for me by my lecturer. So the introduction that they are referring to is this one here. Okay, so next you're supposed to read the instructions. They say, please read the instructions on MyUnisa carefully. I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing that, but here are the key points. Missing the deadline for this is like missing an exam. Do not expect any extension. So make sure that you submit before the deadline. Okay. If you get less than 40% for this, your year mark will not count. Remember, the year mark counts 80%. But if you get less than 40%, they are not going to take into account your year mark. Your final mark will simply be the mark that you got in the portfolio, which is less than 40, and you will fail the module. Please make sure that you have actually submitted your assessment. Take a screen grab of the screen after you have submitted and keep this on a file. Please double check that you have not submitted a blank template. Okay, and this is the template that we are supposed to use for this semester. I'm not going to read all of this information here. I think it's basically self-explanatory, so we're not going to waste time on that. So let's proceed. Please download the most up-to-date version of this template from your group site on MyUnisa. Do not delete the template to reduce the Turnitin score. We do not look at the score, we look at the detailed report. Okay, so what they are referring to with that instruction is we should not delete this information because it is going to increase our Turnitin score. So you should expect that your Turnitin score will be above 60. Okay, it should be above 60. Okay, or more or less, yeah, around 60. But it can go as far as 70 or 80 depending on what you've written. Okay, but the majority of that comes from this content here. So this will be flagged as plagiarized, even though it's not plagiarized, including this one, because every student will have the same information. What is going to be different is the information that you are going to write as part of your notes. Okay, so just expect that. So when you see a percentage of 60, 70, do not panic. Okay, Just double check to see what has been highlighted. You have access to the detailed report, okay? I'll show you how to get that later on. Let's read the next instruction. Okay, they say go through the MCQs again and record your current choice in the template. We suggest that you don't look at your original choices before you have been through all questions. So what this instruction tells us is that you need to go back to the back at the crossroads questions, write your new answers here. So your choice now, for example, my choice now for this question here is option E. Whereas in assignment 1, I had actually chosen option E. So as you can see, this module has somehow influenced me to change my view in terms of this question. Okay, and you are going to do that for the next question. So in this case, I did not really change. My choice now is D. My choice in assignment 1 was also D. You'll do this for all 20 questions, okay, until you get to the end. Okay, so once you have completed that task, make sure that you record the number of changed and the number of unchanged. Okay, so that's what I'm going to show you now. So after I had filled in all the answers to these 20 questions, you go to this part here. You state the number of unchanged. For example, if you look at this one, in my assignment 1 and my answers now, I have 13 questions that remains unchanged. But 7 of those questions, this module has somehow influenced me to change my views. Okay. Once you are done with this, then you move to the next task. Okay, so let's go back and read the instructions. Okay, for each question, record your original choice in assignment number 1. So these are actually talking to the same thing. Write a note of at least 100 words discussing your option for each of the 5 questions that are written in red, question 1 to 5. Okay, so you are going to write a note for these questions here. As you can see, I've already written a note. I'm just hiding this for now so that it does not distract us. Okay, I'll write a note for the first question, write a note for the second question, write a note for the third question, write a note for the fourth and the fifth one. Okay, make sure that each of these notes here, for example, let me show you this one here. You are supposed to make sure that each of these are actually a minimum of 100 words. As you can see, this one, if you highlight the text and look at your bottom left, you'll see the number of words, 117 words. Okay, so you'll write that 117. So that means this is 116 because 117 includes even this one. Okay, so you'll have to make sure that each of your notes are more than 100 words long. Okay, once you have fulfilled that instruction, let us read the next one. Remember, they were specific that we need to write for the first 5. So this is mandatory. You don't have a choice here. Then in the next instruction, they say, write a note of at least 100 words discussing your option for any other 5 questions of your choice. So after the first 5, you are left with 15 questions. Out of that 15 questions, you are supposed to choose 5 questions where you are going to write the notes. Okay, you need to write a conclusion of at least 500 words. Okay, we've already written a conclusion and we are going to discuss that as we proceed. Okay, so let us look at the next part of the instructions. Somewhere within your notes and or conclusion, there must be meaningful references to the major theories that we covered. They are referring to deontology, consequentialism, distributive justice, virtue ethics, and environmental ethics. Okay, I'll show you how to do this as we go through the notes one by one. Okay, then the next instruction says, your notes and conclusion should also make reference to discussions with fellow students that you found meaningfully. So you must also reference some of the things that was discussed in your discussion forum. Then you are going to save the file as a Word document with a short name. My UNISA will reject files with longer names. Here I suggest that you should use your student number as your file name. Okay. Remember, we are submitting as a Word document, not as a PDF. Make sure to remember that, because some students tend to think every assignment should be submitted as a PDF document. Lastly, you need to take a screen grab of the final submission acknowledgement on MyUnisa and save this somewhere safe in case of any disputes. Okay, so once you have followed all these instructions and you have compiled your portfolio, the next step is to use this checklist to check if everything is there. The first one is to check if you are using a correct template version. The second task is to check if all multiple choice questions original answers are captured. Then make sure that you did not delete the contents of the template. Okay, so if all this is there, you should be guaranteed to pass your portfolio. Okay. Remember, there is no right or wrong answer. All they want you to demonstrate is to show that you've understood the concepts discussed in this module and you are able to apply them to different scenarios. Okay, so that is what we are going to do next. Okay, so let us look at the introduction and then write and discuss the notes that I have written here. Okay, the introduction says, my aim in compiling this portfolio was to reflect on the things that have struck me throughout this crazy module. My starting point for doing this was to revisit my opinions to the multiple questions which were presented in the Crossroads assignment. I present these current opinions together with my original opinions and some brief notes in the section entitled Back at the Crossroads. Once I have done this, I draw some key conclusions about this crazy module and about the things that did indeed strike me. So this is how we are going to proceed. I'm going to read the statements for all the questions where I've written notes. After reading the statement, then we'll go through the notes and see how we can link the statement with the theories that we covered in this module. So let's read the first statement. This is compulsory since it is in red. It's easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism. This was stated by Mark Fisher. My personal opinion on this statement is most closely described by, okay, so when I did assignment number 1, my answer was, who cares? But after doing this module, I've realized that I do have to care. Okay, so my current answer is this one here. I think that we need to work on our imagination because this is clearly absurd. Okay, so let us look at how we can write notes for this. Okay, so my notes read as follows. The module introduced me to several moral philosophies and made me aware of the challenges that we are exposed to in this capitalist society. From assignment 2 and 4, I learned that in a capitalist system, the wealth of the world is finite and there are people who have absurd levels of wealth while the majority are living in extreme poverty. Therefore, from a utilitarian perspective, capitalism is bad because it leads to aggregate bad. A good system will benefit the majority and ensure that most people are living in comfort instead of poverty. We need to work on our imagination and come up with a better system. My new answer is option E. Okay, this is how you're supposed to respond. If you have changed your mind, you need to take us through the process. For example, I told you that because of this module, I got to learn about some moral philosophies, and then here I have applied one of the moral philosophies, which in this case was utilitarianism. Okay, you must remember utilitarianism is part of consequentialism. So this means that I had adhered to this instruction here, which says we need to make meaningful references to major theories that we covered. So I have made meaningful reference to consequentialism because this is a form of consequentialism. Okay, make sure that in each of your notes you can highlight the link between either an assignment or one of your major theories. In all your notes, you must make sure that if you did not explicitly mention one of the theories that you discussed, you are supposed to reference an assignment and tell us how that assignment shaped your thinking. So that is all that they want you to do. Okay, as you can see, I can highlight this which I have applied in this context here. I'll have to do the same for the next question. Okay, so let us look at the next question.